Okay guys, a little bit of information on these Mercedes Sprinter 2.1 diesel 4-cylinder. 2014 is the one I have here. So what's going on is a very common problem in these things. I'm popping a P261F code, which means coolant pump actuator blocked or something like that. Which, in the long and short of it, after going to the dealer, having them diagnose it for over $1,500, give me a diagnostics for 220 something bucks, and then a repair bill of $1,500. I wanted to dig in and make sure I knew what they were talking about. So I've researched this before because I popped this code a while ago and tried to clear it and just figure it out. It stayed away for a few months, came back, and here we are. Basically, I have about 78,000 miles on this thing, so it's fairly young, and I guess the water pumps fail pretty regularly on these, anywhere from 35 to 65,000 miles, and some people get lucky and go 300,000. But what we have, just to guys give you a bit of heads up, is the water pump fails, starts leaking through a vacuum diaphragm. Water pump being down here, my pointer here, my white pen here, being down there, nice and tight in there. The diaphragm fails, coolant gets pulled in to the vacuum hose, which then contaminates the system. And if you can just see under this cover slightly here, see if I can get this in there without dropping the phone into the motor. What we're going to be looking at here is what they call the crossover valve. Now, this is going to be tricky. I'm going to use my other hand here. What happens is the coolant goes up, and here's your crossover valve right here. It's called the changeover valve. It's called the electric changeover valve. You can see it's powered. It's got a plug. It's got two vacuum hoses on one side, two coming out of it, and I believe one heads south down towards the water pump, and that's what sucks the coolant and then contaminates this valve switch. And then, if you're lucky, being sarcastic, it goes past that into the tubing, following the tubing, and it goes over to this vacuum reservoir, which is, now we're on the driver's side underneath the brake fluid reservoir here. And what you're looking at here is this box. Sorry about the sun, it's really bright. So this box here, where all these vacuum hoses are connected to, you'll see it. You see these vacuum hoses? This little box, which appears to be nothing more than a silly plastic box with no internals but air. And then that has a hose going to your brake booster. So this thing has the potential, if you allow this leak to go, to basically suck coolant and basically contaminate the entire system. Some of these hoses apparently go over to the turbo and go to the brakes, and it just never ends if you let it keep sucking fluid out of there. So if you're losing any amount of serious coolant, you better fix this thing quick. From what I understand, the repairs can get expensive. So I'm tempted to do it myself because I don't like the fact that this thing fails so easily, and I don't like the bill they want to give me, and it just pisses me off. My typical love-hate relationship with the Sprinter is that I do not like Mercedes, but I do like the Sprinter function. And Mercedes, to me, has a lot of horrible design flaws, but that's my personal opinion. I know these things do a lot of miles around the world, but anyway, so that's a little bit of information on that. Now, apparently, to get this whole water pump out, you're going to be pulling all this stuff apart, the shroud and the fan. So the shroud, you want to be careful with this piece of plastic here, because apparently this is crucial to getting your air conditioner to work correctly, because it keeps the air flowing across your air conditioning, heat exchanger. Okay, so basically you're going to be taking this fan out simultaneously with the shroud, because you can't pass the fan without moving the shroud. So a couple of things you're going to want to do is obviously unhook some of these hoses in the way. I'm going to probably unhook this one just so I have some elbow room to pull the shroud out. So, some people tear off the whole front of the van. I think I'm going to try to avoid that if possible. But the trick to this shroud, if you can see right down in here, I'll try to get you a view of it. It is a push tab. Okay, there you can see it now. Okay, let me put my pen on it. Okay, see this? This is just a one-directional push tab. If you push in on this, press down, it'll get out of the way of this lip. Okay, so push this in, this right here, in towards the front of the vehicle. And that allows that to slip upward. And there's one on the other side at the top as well. Down below, I do not believe there's anything other than slots to fall into without clips holding it. Gravity holds it, and then this, obviously, this top clip holds it. So you don't need to go crazy here. Just push that tab in, it'll slide past. And then obviously you want to get this hose out of the way, which is simple. This box, if you've played with this before, it comes off very easily. Just remember to take video of everything, and obviously take video of your serpentine belt down there. I'm going to probably replace my belt, check all my pulleys and tensioners and so forth, and the clutch, fan clutch bearing seems to be good on mine. I mean, I've played with it, and we'll go from there. Now just be careful, cautionary tale, I'll have some more details when I post this video in writing and some links to some of the products. They're suggesting you go with OEM because they have made some updates to some of these parts, and you got to be cautious of buying a pump that does not have the vacuum nipple on it. Meaning that I guess some manufacturers have actually eliminated it, thinking they can eliminate the problem, but apparently you'll pop codes for the rest of your life if you do not get that vacuum system hooked back up. The whole theory behind the vacuum system is that when the engine is cold, it keeps the water pump from running, or from pumping too much water, so that the engine will heat up quicker, and it is an emissions thing in a sense. Get it up to operating temperature quicker that way upon startup. Now, of course, I wish this was included in that class action lawsuit related to all the emissions crap, which I'm, investigating myself right now. And if you don't know about that, you should go file your claim if you own one of these things and get your money, because you might get as much as a $3,000 check, just a heads up. And the dates are running out, so you better hurry. Anyway, so I'm going to probably give this a shot. I think you can get the parts for probably around $300. Now, there's also another little heads up. There's a carrier plate, they call it, which sits behind the water pump, which I guess is what the water pump is mounted on up against the engine block here. And that carrier plate has been updated by Mercedes a couple of times, so it might be something you want to consider replacing as well while you're in there. Now, none of this is going to be too easy. Most of it's access difficulty, and Mercedes, had to use their funky bolts. They couldn't just keep it simple and use normal bolts. They had to do all this funky stuff so that, maybe they push you to the dealer, but that's just a pain in the ass. So that's unfortunate. But so you want to make sure you got your wrenches and your sockets and your specialty fitting, sockets, fittings, tools for this job before you start. I don't even know all the sizes yet, but I'll probably post that once I learn it. So I hope that helps you guys. Again, there are a few pumps out there. You need a smooth pump versus a grooved pulley pump. And like I said, you're going to want your changeover valve, which apparently could be contaminated. Now, mine has very little coolant. The way they test to see if you have an issue is they literally just pull out, I believe, this first line, and they look in there for coolant crust. They just pull this first line off of this vacuum reservoir and look for coolant crust. Now, apparently, if you cut this box open, you would find coolant gunk and crust in there if we'd been sucking it. I was almost tempted to just drill an access hole in this thing, thread it, and put in an O-ringed adapter plug so that I could access it when I wanted to and take a look in there. I mean, I would obviously still maintain vacuum and kind of need these types of modifications from us folks who have to live with it. But so you might need this part as well, because it could have got contaminated. If you don't replace it, they say that contamination can continue to go in and trip things up. Again, like I showed you that crossover valve underneath here, you can see that just to the right of that blue mark. And then what else? Oh, they're saying that there is a fitting behind that carrier plate. I think it's a solid steel or aluminum tube that has an O-ring fitting in it. They're saying that O-ring can fail or dry up or crack, what have you, and that can also be a party or cause some of that leaking. So it's almost as if you're in there, you might as well pull the carrier plate and check that, and then you might as well replace the carrier plate if they've updated it. So it can get kind of extensive. I'm still debating whether I'm doing it myself or not, but I kind of like to do these things on some level because then I understand them and I don't necessarily trust the dealer. especially since they said their Sprinter tech wasn't there that day when he did the analysis of it. So I had the assistant, not the actual doctor. Talk to you guys later. Hope that helps. I'll have more information and links and more videos in the future about this subject. Thanks.